What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Insurrection Inc. podcast. We want to thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to the Quarantine Re-Education Camp podcast.
Ooh.
And today we've got me, Porter, along with Jay, Peter, and Tim. We're going to be talking about a few different topics, but in the spirit of re-education, the first one is how to educate your friends on anarchism, specifically free market or anarcho-capitalism.
Yeah, we don't accept mutualists here. Sorry, get off. Get off the show.
No. Yeah, come on, Porter, get off.
No, Porter's a communist. He's fine.
What? But that's okay.
Oh, ASMR time.
And look at who's here, Monty. Hello.
All right, hey, Monty. You made it just in time. We're about to start talking about our first topic, buddy. How to educate your friends on anarcho-capitalism.
Oh, nice.
All right, so
Who wants to go first?
I think first you got to put a disclaimer out there that there is no way in hell you can even convince a majority of your friends to any form of anarchism, because it takes a very specific mindset to get someone there.
Yeah, but at the same time,
Sure.
I convinced 3 of my closest friends to become anarchists or near anarchists. 2 of them are about anarchists.
I think the key there is that they're your closest friends, so they'll listen to you, they trust you, and you guys have a connection. So you're able to get them into that way of thinking.
Well, honestly, like a couple of, well, not a couple, but one of them isn't even that particularly close. Like, I don't hang out with him that much. It just was about a year ago or so in high school when I convinced him, and then I guess the other one was around the same time. I'm closer with him, and then yeah, just a few other friends I've at least brought closer to libertarianism. 2 are avowed anarchists, but I'm trying to think what strategies I used. Sometimes people are just more open to it than others. Some people are more open to it than others. I mean,
Yeah, that's
so,
the thing you got to keep in mind.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of prejudices regarding the topic. I mean, especially regarding libertarianism and anarcho-capitalism. Like, I think a lot of people don't know what it stands for, like, at all. Because, I mean, a lot of people also don't know what anarcho-communism stands for. But they have it's more popular in media, and it's...
Ancoms don't even know what they stand for.
Yeah, that as well, but it's like for some reason people are more aware of anarcho-communists and of anarcho-capitalists.
Well, yeah, because that's like the oldest school of anarchism, so they've been the ones who've done the most shit.
Isn't it mutualism that came out first? Like Protor, Horn, and then it came to like...
How did you just pronounce Proudhon?
Prothorn. Wait, that's not how you pronounce it?
There's no R.
It's Proudhon.
Proudhon. Yeah.
Proudhon? I don't know how to
Proudhon.
pronounce French stuff.
You're in Canada!
I know. I failed French class.
Oh my god.
What the fuck?
I literally, all the way up till high school, I failed French class before I managed to get an easy slide out of it.
Why are you so terrible at pronouncing things?
I just can't pronounce anything. I don't know.
All right.
Where the fuck did that R come from?
The episode.
Yeah, okay.
Lost speaking privileges.
I'm gonna lose my fucking mind over him mispronouncing the name of an economist I don't even like, so whatever.
I will mispronounce every single name that exists.
No.
Every foreign name will be mispronounced. Anyways,
Actually,
we've gone off topic here.
Yes,
but
I
I'm
just
pretty
wanted to
sure
say
That was very quick. That's 4 minutes in and we're ready.
Yeah.
I've been reading Principles of Economics by Minger, and he criticizes Proudhon in multiple points, like in multiple footnotes in just the first 2 chapters.
Oh, because mutualism is fucking retarded.
I mean, yeah. Also, the time when Menger was around, it was basically a time when socialism and, I mean, technically mutualism and Proudhon were market socialists. So there were at least some kind of socialists, even though it's like different from communism, obviously. But that's why also you can find a lot of references to syndicalism and mutualism in a lot of Mises books, because it was pretty new and an upcoming ideology back then.
Yeah, no, mutualism was definitely a bigger contender in the 1800s than it is in the 2010s.
Yes.
It is making a comeback, though. I have noticed it is making a comeback.
I mean, no, to be honest, like what I have noticed is that people who are self-proclaimed mutualists, it's often just the pipeline to communism for a lot of them. I don't know, like I have noticed that a lot of mutualists on Politigram, after some time, they will just call themselves communists anymore, not mutualists, because it's probably more consistent than mutualism.
Yeah, 100%. But one
People
thing I
don't
did
really
notice,
stand there anymore.
one thing I did notice is that agorism is like a pipeline into left libertarianism. Like,
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the
for
problem.
some
Not
it's
necessarily. Not
I mean, it's-
necessarily.
not necessarily, but I have noticed that a lot of mutualists
Mhm.
did start as like right libertarians, then they discovered agorism, and then they went for like full left libertarian.
I can't
Yeah, I
deny
think-
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the problem with that is that we already talked about this, but some agorists uphold the labor theory of value, and
Yeah.
maybe that's like the starting point where you start thinking about that it's maybe better than the
Then the one that actually makes sense.
one that actually
Yeah,
makes
and subjective value.
the subjectors.
Well, they also don't
value.
favor wage work too highly.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it-
I just don't
Konkin
get
in
that
his
one.
writings was kind of lefty too. Like he wasn't really pro-capitalist in his writings. Konkin was
They're
kind of
specifically
more-
against statist capitalists, they so-called.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
it does,
a lot of the
we
reason-
are also against state capitalism. I think it's like actually in modern times, state capitalism, corporatism, and cronyism is a bigger threat to capitalism than socialism is.
Oh yeah, I would agree with that. But one,
Yeah, I think for now that's true. Socialism does
Yeah.
seem to be growing a little bit in the United States. So it's
Yeah,
not
once
just a
social-
threat.
once socialism gets a foothold, then
the
we'll look for the
failures
days
of
of the
it-
cronyists.
No, the failures
Yeah.
of cronyism trigger the response to the flight towards socialism. That's the problem.
That's very true.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
true as well. Yeah, I mean,
It's all about the pipeline.
Yeah, well,
it's
with-
not really
with-
about the pipeline. It's more about the
Cronyism is the pipeline to socialism.
And then once they actually get socialism, they'll realize how similar it is with collective ownership, except it'll be a different type of collective ownership. It won't be like the kind of corporatist collective ownership, where it's like the kind of hierarchy where some people own more than others. It'll be a bit more mixed. So maybe then people will actually realize how similar they are, while the current cronyism has like more of a hierarchical, where like some people own more than others in the business. Like there'll be the shareholders who put the most capital into the business, and then the workers who own a little bit of the business through their retirement savings funds, stuff like that. So then maybe they'll actually figure out how similar cronyism is to socialism.
right. Well, like Jay
you,
says,
you lost me in a lot of that. I'm not gonna
like
lie.
Jay says, fascists are just right-wing communists.
They are.
So it makes perfect sense that
God, dude,
cronyism is the pipeline to
That
to
fucking
communism in a
episode.
lot of senses.
Fucking episode.
Yeah. But
Everybody, go listen to the After Hours episode, because there's a lot I don't remember from it that other people are telling me, and it is something.
Okay, back on track though. We just threw out a lot of words that people don't know. But let's focus on the ones we actually believe in. So
Yeah.
back to education specifically.
Yeah.
Capitalism or free market anarchism or Austro-anarchism, whatever you want to call it. We use a lot of different terms, and this is not the place to. This is not the
No,
time to
it's
debate
not.
the use of the word capitalism. Probably we can definitely touch on that at some point in this episode or later in another episode. But back to the education point.
So one of these says, like, you don't even remember really the strategies you used, which is important to remember because you probably didn't use one strategy. Like, here's the thing with the sales pitch is that you have to cater what you're selling to the person you're selling it to. So there's some people that they absolutely love the brainy, autistic way of thinking of things where, yeah, this makes the most logical sense. Like, this has the most connectivity to one idea to another when you start with first principles and you build up. To some people, that's the best way to go. I know probably for the majority of us here, that's how we got here.
Mm-hmm.
Except Peter, you confuse me, but
yeah, I confused everyone. Don't worry.
But yeah, I'd say like the majority of us here got here through like thinking and seeing some evidence and just putting the pieces together and going down a logical consistency rabbit hole. But then there's some other people that get to anarchism because they were slighted in some way by the state, and then they saw the state for what it really is. Then there's some people that just sort of end up there. No real explanation.
Yeah, but I think actually that the people who get there, which is I think most of us here, are the ones who also stay libertarians and anarcho-capitalists or agorists for a longer time than the people who are just like generally disliking the state for some reason, even though they
Yeah.
can't often really justify it. It's just like a general hatred, maybe because of personal reasons even. I think that's like some. Yeah, it's these people are often they lack political and economic knowledge, so they can't often really justify their positions. It's just like if it's based on hatred, I don't really see a logical consistency in that.
Yeah, because I mean, look at
Right.
punks from the '80s that were like super like left-wing anarchists back then. They wanted to smash cop cars and like kill politicians and shit. And now in 2020, they're telling you to vote for Bernie.
Yeah,
Didn't work out
Well-
too well.
Yeah, well, Tim, I want to touch back on what you said earlier too. Is that a lot of people don't even know anything about what we believe. Like they're not even aware of the term libertarian, or certainly not anarcho-capitalist or whatever. And I
Actually, it
think
means
that
we
can
want to
actually
own child slaves, right?
I think that can
Yes.
actually be beneficial to us, though, because when we're the first ones to introduce the idea to them, I think it works a little bit in our favor, because it's no, it's not less biased. It's a more honest representation of our views, because they're hearing it from the people who actually believe it, and not hearing
Yeah,
it from
instead
our
of
critics or
websites
something.
like Rational Wiki or something.
Oh Lord! If any of you have not been on the Rational Wiki, do not go there. Value your sanity. You're gonna want to pull your fucking hair out.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
I mean, all the
Yeah, go to the
man cat
Mises
straw
Wiki,
man
yeah.
memes and stuff are funny,
Mm.
but it really does help when we're the first ones to get there. At least maybe the second ones behind public schools. But that's something through experience, at least, I've been able to overcome in people's thinking. You can get past the public school brainwashing if you make enough sense and you present it in the right way.
The funny thing
Yeah.
about that is my AP Gov teacher back in senior year, she basically like said libertarianism is the same thing as anarchy. She put politics on one single spectrum, where it was like communism all the way to the left, and then like socialism, Democrats, Republicans, constitutionalists, and then like libertarianism were a little bit right before anarchy.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I think I've like everyone has
That's
seen
not the worst
this
spectrum I've
picture.
ever seen.
No.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen them worse.
That's
The funny thing
acceptable.
about that one though is that she put anarchy on the right. So,
Hmm. Yeah, most people consider anarchy as, again, like we said earlier, like the left wing anarcho-communism, mutualism, something like that.
Well, yeah, certainly the tradition is more leftist. It wasn't
Yeah.
until really, I mean, Bastiat wasn't an anarchist, I don't think, at least.
no, he
didn't use
wasn't.
that word. Although much of his writing was proto-anarchist, at least.
Who's the other guy who was in the French Parliament at the time? Gustave de Molinari was
That was-
very close to an anarchist.
Yeah, Proudhon was also in the French legislature at the same time as Bastiat.
Yeah. They
And
had some correspondence.
Proudhon was the first one to use the word anarchist.
No, wasn't he the first
Je
one?
suis anarchista.
Yeah, you're
was
right.
the-
He was the first one to use anarchist. I forget who was the first one to use libertarian.
Uh,
There were libertarians, I think.
like
No,
that
but I
was
know
one of
that
the
was some sort of
ancoms.
that was some sort of communist who first used it.
Was it Bakunin, maybe?
It was a French person.
I have no
that.
idea. I have no idea.
Yeah, okay, I don't know enough about that then.
Wasn't Joseph, some Joseph writing to I can't
To
even
what,
pronounce
Mary?
it now. No.
Joseph was writing to Mary. Yeah, so I made up this term libertarianism.
This is gonna go bad places. Let's turn this around.
Yeah, no, no, let's just cut
back
this
to
out.
education.
No, it's like some Joseph Dexaquis to
Doesn't-
Prothorn. I can't pronounce his name.
Proudhon!
Proudhon. Well, I can't
He
pronounce
did
No.
it. He did it.
Yes, thank you, Peter. Thank
Proudhon?
you.
Okay, let's restart from here. And
No, this is not getting cut out. This is not getting cut out.
Okay.
Staying.
It's staying in. They get to hear our unfiltered, not unfiltered, but slightly less filtered autism.
Oh, okay.
All right. Has anyone else had any success converting people close to them then?
Yeah,
Uh,
it's kind of funny because I've already talked about it, but libertarianism is like a really even a smaller political movement here in Germany than it is in the US, and funny enough, like I met probably one of the closest friends currently. I met him at high school, and he considered himself a libertarian, and I didn't even know that because I considered myself a minarchist, I think, back then. So I didn't know that for a long time. But then we, for some reason, talked about politics, and then we just realized that we were both libertarians. And we are basically the only libertarians in a school of, I think, like 700 people. And
I feel you.
we had some success to convert some of our friends to libertarianism, basically. And I mean, it's just logical thinking to the most degree. It's I don't know. You can't really indoctrinate someone, or you can just convince someone that it's correct, because what I see a lot of times with people who have like good skills regarding logical thinking is that when I discuss anarcho-capitalism with them, and especially the consistency in it, that they are disagreeing with it at the first time because they're statists and they were statists their whole life. And so obviously they're first disagreeing with it, and they say no, it's wrong, and it's not possible. Society couldn't function like that. But what I see often is that they actually start thinking. Then you can literally see it in their eyes that they're taking into consideration how society could look like, and that it's maybe also a more moral society than the current one. Because basically, what you have to do with the people who can just think rationally, is you just have to get them into a moral checkmate. And once you have done that, from there on, if they continue thinking about it, then they will just find out themselves that anarcho-capitalism is just moral.
Yeah, I got a question for Monty.
Yeah.
Who was an ANCAP first, you or Jerry?
Jerry, but so I was a libertarian first. I got him into libertarianism, and he drove straight into ANCAP. So I don't think he was as well versed as Peter would be, to be honest. But yeah, he was ANCAP first.
Okay.
It took me 2 years to get to ANCAP.
So basically, you just showed Jerry libertarianism, and that was enough to get him going.
Yeah, he went down and started a politogram.
I mean, like 80% of all minarchists will eventually turn into ANCAPs, because after some time of bullying them and like making them think about it, they can't justify a state anymore. Because once you have like most minarchists already have like kind of anarchist thinking, and they know that the state is immoral and it's based on coercion, but they are not willing to let go of it for like multiple reasons.
Yeah, Peter.
Right,
yeah, it took me like
the
2 years.
Principle, and it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes a bit of reading, and it takes a lot of effort, because if you still keep the same way of thinking, it's kind of hard to figure out all the flaws and justify like getting rid of the small leftovers of the state. That's kind of what took me so long. Because again, I wasn't too like big into changing my thing, but slowly as I figured more stuff out and was able to properly justify myself, that's what managed to get me all the way into ANCAP.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
well, let's talk about some effective rhetorical strategies, because the biggest thing I had when I was convincing friends and just other people I have interacted with on Instagram, especially, like trying to get them into anarchism, the biggest thing I encountered was just questions about how it would work, because a lot of people accepted the principles, or at least thought they sounded good. Like, okay, we're not going to use violence against peaceful people. That sounds good, but how would it work? So part of that is, one, just being well read, and two is having effective rhetorical strategies to respond to it. So one of mine that really got some people thinking was, well, I can tell you how it works, and I will in a second, or how I think it would work at least. But think about this: if you accept the principles, then you don't need to know how it would work. If these principles are truly universal, if you do believe that people have inherent natural rights not to be aggressed upon, then you don't need to know how it works. You can just believe in that and go from there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that what you said.
Oh, hey, we got Andrew in here. Welcome, Andrew.
Oh my god,
You
hello,
yeah,
want
Andrew.
to give him the quick skinny about what we're talking about right now?
We're talking about getting people to anarcho-communism.
Okay, Tim.
And
We all
Wait,
know you're a spy.
Yeah,
Wait, okay.
I'm the
strategies should look
communist.
like.
Andrew, I got a question for you. You convinced 2 of your friends to become ANCAP, right?
Yes.
How did you do it?
Just evidence.
Evidence. So,
And
like,
basic
you like, yeah. So, I think that's a common thread here. They're like the majority of good libertarians do get here through logical thinking, but right now we're talking about. Porter said like one big roadblock he gets into is that people will accept the principles, but then start questioning how it works. So that's what we're on now.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what
just-
I want to add something to that real quick because I want to add that anyways regarding the questions because most libertarians, also like in the Libertarian Party, which mostly consists of minarchists, basically, of weird minarchists, they accept the non-aggression principle, but they're just accepting it to a certain degree because having a state still means that you're not fully accepting it, since every state requires coercion. And then they should just ask NCAPs questions regarding how society would function without a state. I think, like for me, actually, the last question was before I kind of went down the pipe completely was how a stateless society would handle weapons of mass destruction or something like that.
it's not economical.
Yeah, mostly, and I think we shouldn't like push forward to just dismantle the state within like 2 days. It should more be like a process, if it's not like a weird boogaloo or something. So I think while we are dismantling the state should also make sure that it's getting rid of its own weapons, especially the weapons of mass destructions.
Yeah, no, the uranium and plutonium would be better suited for energy sources.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Also, insurance companies could prohibit it because it's a huge risk. You're more
Yeah,
of a
for
risk
sure.
to.
That's one of the things people ask me about. Is like, what about gun control?
What about
in
it?
your society? Is like, well, there wouldn't be any, but
Yeah, why would you need any?
but that doesn't mean people would just be running around shooting each other for no reason.
Yes, they
And
mean,
it
would.
doesn't
my
mean
covenant
every gun
community.
you could own hand grenades necessarily.
Yeah, exactly.
There could be voluntary rules against it.
I'd open up a hand
Yeah.
grenade range.
I mean, if a
Yeah, that's
community wants to
With
say,
some-
"Hey, no hand grenades," I mean, I
Yeah,
don't see
one guy
anything
was
wrong
like-
with that.
One guy was like, "What? So you just want everybody driving around in tanks and with rocket launchers in
If you
their
can
car?"
afford it.
Yes.
Yes.
And I was like, yeah, first of all, that sounds dope. But second of all,
That's
Oh.
expensive as hell.
I mean, another thing people don't realize, like most people, even in their own ideologies now, they aren't thinking practically. Like someone just said a second ago.
It's
Here,
debatable.
let me
to know.
explain. Let me explain. Let me finish.
Yeah.
I know what I said sounds whack, but let me finish. Like someone a second ago said that without a state, people just assume that everyone's going to go around shooting each other without gun control and stuff. Well, no, obviously that's not going to happen. Just think about it. If one person says, "Yo, like handed grenades aren't that cool," most people are going to be like, "Yeah, you're probably right. Let's like not have them." Just on their own. It's like it's just not cool. I mean, it is cool, but like it's not
It is
cool
very
for the
cool.
community. For most people, would be like, "Hey, let's just not even deal with this. Not even worry about it." You know, you got to like people are more reasonable than what they make themselves out to be.
Yeah, and
They
like you're not gonna
choose to
throw
not be reasonable out of spite.
and you're not gonna throw a hand grenade in your yard because you could fuck with somebody else's house and they're gonna fucking sue you, and you're gonna constantly
Yeah.
pay up to like afford throwing hand grenades in your yard.
Yeah,
yeah, that's another rhetorical strategy that's helpful is comparing it to what the state does now. Because like a lot of the fears that people have are exactly what we have now. Like the same guy I was talking with who said that is like, "What? So you just want people to be able to like shoot each other with impunity or what?" I'm like, "That's what happens now. that's what the state is. That's don't you
And the
get it?
majority of murders
Also-
go unsolved. So
Also, for like children, the Child Protective Services is horrible. So, if you're
It's the
question
largest
about
child
what
trafficking
children-
organization in
Yeah, exactly.
and
the
also
United States, if not the world. Yeah,
And also for children, normal hand grenades are far too big for their little hands. Like, the market would obviously provide smaller hand grenades for them that would do less damage.
Yeah, mounted weapons are much more suitable for children.
Exactly.
It promotes teamwork. It promotes hand-eye coordination, and it doesn't have to worry about carrying a
Exactly.
big gun around because you have the kids work together, one loading the gun, the other shooting. And it works out.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And this is how you train your ANCAP stand child army.
Yes. What else am I
Yeah.
supposed to do?
But regarding
Is that in
child
the Ron
protective
Paul
ser-
homeschooling curriculum?
Yes, it is, actually. If you
Liberty
use our
Council.
affiliate link, insurrectioninc.com/Ron Paul Homeschool.
We do not own that domain.
regarding child protective services, I think that was also one of the last questions before I hopped the fence towards anarcho-capitalism. Why do I want to say communism all the time? That's kind of weird.
Got some deep-seated
Um,
fears.
Freudian
Yeah.
slip. Freudian slip.
Yeah, we got two communists on the show
And-
now.
And basically, what we are witnessing right now is that child abuse is obviously illegal, and it would also be illegal in a stateless society. Like, there are some people who there are actually a lot of people who are taking, I think, Rothbard, some quotes of him out of context, where he's saying that it's okay that you starve your own children to death or something like that. And
Well-
they're just taking it out of context, basically, and just try to basically, make try to make anarcho-capitalism look bad. But the thing is that I think there would be a lot of like private organizations who could help children, and because what people don't understand is that children still have rights, and they wouldn't just lose their rights in a stateless society. So you can just abuse them. Children cannot consent to sex with like a 50-year-old man or something. And I think that's a really dangerous notion to take, that we are, I don't know, supporting pedophilia or something like that, because it's simply not true. And technically, if someone violates the rights of a child, even if it's their own child, the child should still be allowed to obviously run away. And if it's not able to run away, then the private organization should be able to actually invade the home of the fucking parents and take away the child, because the rights of the child have been violated.
Yeah, and again, there would be community rules or whatever.
Yeah, but technically, against these community rules, you could still say that, for example, what happens if like one person is basically living really remote in like a quite remote area and is not part of any Covenant community or any community in general, and he is basically, I don't know, having like a club for pedophiles where pedophiles can come there and, I don't know, have sex with children. Then you can't do anything about it technically, from the point of view of these people who are trying to make anarcho-capitalism look bad. But they're still not losing their rights just because they're on a different property, obviously.
I am very
Yeah, no,
comfortable
I
with
was
this topic.
implying that.
It
I'm just
all
saying
goes
there are
back-
multiple avenues you could use to very easily not allow that.
I mean, wouldn't
Yeah.
there be technically a hierarchy of rights, because it's technically life, liberty, property? So, like in an anarcho-capitalist society, the NAP would look at if someone's life is being violated first, like
Well,
they're being
you could-
murdered on someone's property. So that would kind of justify some intrusion of the murderer's property because
Yeah, if
he's
you
committing
have
a
children
murder.
there, in your
Or if
home,
Well, I
like the
think-
person's kidnapping someone.
I'm sure
so
other
that'd be a
communities would
violation of
be.
liberty.
I think it all combines like together in kind of just one right, the right to self-ownership, because from that stems your liberty, your life, and your property.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that'd be like, I think that's what, at least from my interpretation and thinking about it in the last 30 seconds, I think that would be the best way to come at it. I guess there still would be a hierarchy to an extent, but I mean, if someone's murdered on someone else's land, I mean, like, does that really even matter at that point? Like, the guy was murdered. Bring justice, regardless of who land it was on. It shouldn't
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it technically, see, this is why I mean. It's like it would allow for some intrusion, which I think would be at least okay. because again, the murderer clearly murdered someone on his own property, but that still means he violated someone else's rights. So that
Yeah,
means
but
he should still be brought to justice,
It
even if
goes
it
back to the thing
violates
of
the murderer's rights.
it just goes back to the thing of just people are reasonable.
Yeah.
Like if you murder someone without a reason on your property, people are still going to come after you for you just killed someone without
Yeah.
a justified reason. People are going to be reasonable. They're going to burn your
Yeah,
house down.
and you can't just kill someone for being on your property. Like if they refuse to leave,
Tell Stratty.
Oh my god.
but no, you also can't just murder someone for being on your property. Like there has to be something that you do to try to get them off first, because things have to be met with a reasonable amount of force for each situation. If somebody refuses from your property and refuses to leave and starts getting aggressive, and they're a threat to your life, then you're allowed to. But if someone accepts that, okay, yeah, sorry, I didn't know this was private property, I'll get off, and they're walking away, you can't shoot them in the back.
At the same time, like,
Yeah,
so
and I
are you really going to care if someone's like walking a little bit on your land?
not
Like,
at
who's
all.
really going to care?
Yeah,
that?
no,
Well,
If
some
they're like
people will.
vandalizing it or like over there in the bush taking a
Well-
dump, I'd care. But
Yeah.
I mean, most
And you still want to shoot them for
Who's
taking a
really
dump
gonna
in your
care?
bush.
It's fertilizer. Like, it was free fertilizer. What can I say?
That's a very good way to think about it.
Yeah, look,
But I also think that people who would, for example, would shoot people directly who enter their property or something like that, would be in social isolation, because after some time, if there's like a story that the guy tried to shoot trespassers just because they accidentally maybe trespassed on his property, this will get known quite fast within the community, and people will just isolate the guy, and nobody will step on his property anymore because it's known. And I think that's like also a really important part in how anarcho-capitalism would function, is that social pressure and social isolation would still play like a huge role.
Yeah. And but back to the thing of like convincing people. So when they have that mental barrier of like, okay, how would this work? How would that work? I don't even really like too much trying to go in and explain it, because number one, obviously we all agree you can't predict how the market is going to come. You can only make best guesses of how it's going to work. What I prefer to do is to either show that this is not working currently with the state, or I try to do an absurdo ad reductum and sort of reduce their argument into something very small and work its way up back from there. So like when somebody talks about who will build the roads, I don't even really like going into the thing of like bring up Walter Block, bring up his whole 400-page book about all this crap. I don't like doing that too much. What I'd rather do is show like the government really is not that good at building roads, and roads were not even a major issue before the government. We probably wouldn't even have a major like automobile culture without the government creating this shit. And I just don't like approaching these arguments head on, because you leave so much room if you misrepresent an argument by accident, if you leave out some details, and you derail the entire thing by trying to answer every single little question they have.
Y'all are gonna give me shit for this, but Kevin Carson has some pretty good.
I want
work
to kick you
on,
so badly.
not having a huge automobile culture without the
You
state.
don't
Like what it would look like in a true free market.
you don't make your case for not being a communist very well.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Come on,
Like the
cars-
interstate
Accepted as
system.
cars
this point,
are
it's not
based.
going to change your
No,
mind.
but you do have a point. Like, I'm not the first one to talk about this. Obviously, there have been a lot of thinkers that have said this before. Not just Kevin Carson. I've seen it on Mises also, in the Mises Institute. It's
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Walter Block has commented on it as well.
Well,
probably
like the interstate Rothbard talks about in For New Liberty, I think, how that one helped kill the railroad industry and like the passenger.
Yeah.
And it displaced a lot.
because it's true. You wouldn't
You have
have
to take longer commutes, and
it's less economical. It's worse for the environment. I mean, I would love to have a well-developed private train system that's nice and clean and efficient.
Oh, it's significantly better for the economy, like trains are. I mean, yeah. It's a lot worse to have the full automobile culture.
the United States used to have an amazing rail network. And
All privately built.
Yeah.
Well,
Not all,
I mean, the
but-
government was
Yeah, but the ones that
heavily
the ones that-
involved,
the ones that-
messing it up.
the ones that the government subsidized fucking broke and went to shit and killed a lot of
Yeah,
people.
exactly.
All the ones the government subsidized has dead Chinese on them.
And Native
Mm.
American.
Wow, is that the cure
Yeah,
to the
that's a-
coronavirus? That's getting censored.
Yeah,
Building
it's
more
just
railroad.
government subsidized railroads. You just throw the immigrants on there.
Okay,
You
Peter,
have them
Peter,
fall
Peter,
off the
Peter,
bridges.
Peter,
Stop.
Calm down.
Peter.
Calm down.
Don't take it too far,
But that's
buddy.
what happened.
Peter, don't take it too far.
I think that infrastructure and like railroads especially are actually a good example how badly the state handles infrastructure, because if you have to subsidize something because otherwise it wouldn't make any profit, it will just result in more spending and more spending, because if there's like no profit, then after some time obviously the railway will go to shit, because you would have to spend so much money in it that it's simply not worth it. So private railways obviously make more sense, since nobody would run a private railway if the railway doesn't mean profit. So actually, infrastructure is a quite good example, which speaks in favor of anarcho-capitalism, or like capitalism in general.
Yeah. And so, I mean, like, being...
Yeah.
Oh, what's up, Monty?
Well, I was just gonna say, I forget the guy's name, but someone, railroad entrepreneur, he competed directly.
What,
better-
Vanderbilt?
No, it was some other guy.
There's a lot
I
of them.
think with these rail companies that were getting heavily subsidized. It might have been Vanderbilt.
I don't know. I feel like Vanderbilt would have been the one getting heavily subsidized.
There was Vanderbilt, Carnegie were two big railroad guys, but I
Let me
know
check.
Rockefeller decided just to abandon all railroads and just did pipelines for his
Yeah.
oil. So I don't know anything other than that, because that's all I've seen in the Man Who Built America movie. But
Oh, I think I watched that too. Was that a History Channel special?
I
Yeah,
think
I think
That
my
was a good one.
history teacher showed us that in like junior year.
Yeah, I watched that junior year as well as an APU history.
I skipped A push. I
That's
just said fuck doing the work for that.
It wasn't that bad.
It was really bad in my school. There was a shit ton of work.
Oh.
But yeah, like, but be honest, guys. How many of you actually engage in an argument about like how the roads will be built when somebody asks you that?
I do, because I think
I sometimes.
once you explained to them how you would abolish such a monopoly, it's also easier to argue in order to abolish other monopolies the state has, like the justice system and police system and stuff like that.
I just
Because-
really prefer pointing out that like roads were built privately before the early 1900s, and that cities were structured way differently, and it led to people walking more. More things were in walking distance, so people weren't so fucking fat. And
Yeah, and the original city planners were in northern cities like Chicago and stuff. Like, that job was created to segregate black people. Like, it was purely a racist job in the beginning.
and Andrew's actually in an interesting position here. Tell them about the history of Birmingham.
Oh yeah. Of course, this is like this for most cities way back then. Like where all the roads were privately built, but the entire city of Birmingham was privately founded. Like everything there was private. It was borderline ANCAP.
That's crazy.
The only difference was they had it was a mining town. There was lots of iron and coal and limestone in the area that was used at the time for the rising steel industry in the north. So of course people went there to go work in the mines. From there, people bought property around the area, usually from the previous landowners who had the area for mining purposes. Of course, it built it up from there. Now, of course, the mines are shut down and all the roads are public, and there's public services and stuff now. But a lot of the stuff is still banking and service and entertainment stuff. So most of it's still private, but it did found entirely on private matters. Like, as far as I know, not a single bit of it was a public project.
Yeah, and
That's pretty
That's great.
epic.
We should do that everywhere.
that's a good
Yeah.
example of how like if there's a private interest to build something, they will fucking do it. I mean, that's
Oh, not only that, I just remembered something else about Birmingham. There are the two biggest parks in Birmingham that are non-absolute just crapshoots of places to go are both privately owned.
Hmm.
One of them is the Vulcan statue.
yeah, with the nice
park.
the cake.
Yeah. privately owned. All they ask is like a small ticket like fee to get into the park. It's like $7, and it's definitely worth it. And the other one is free to visit, but they ask for donations. Called Railroad Park, and it's entirely private. It's city land, but it's privately run, and it is one of the best looking parks I've ever seen. And there's public parks as well in other parts of Birmingham, and those are actually like they're like third world countries. It's awful.
It kind of
Yeah.
reminds me of the National Park Service, which could easily be privatized literally overnight because it's one of the only federal things that pays for itself. Now, the only problem is how they acquired the land that is designated as a federal park. Like, I do have some problems with that. But, like, in terms of charging interest fees and, like, annual memberships and stuff, they actually do pay for themselves because they have very, very low overhead. And a lot of people do visit them.
And
So
also look when the government
that kind of model really does
look when the
work.
government shut
Yeah,
down
and I
2
see-
years or 1 or 2 years ago, how they refused to keep up the national park, so people were just breaking in and maintaining it.
Yeah, I do remember that. That's
What's
right.
up, Monty?
Yeah, and I see more like environmentalist types that even strayed away from libertarianism for that reason. Like they're in favor of state control of the parks, and they just they can't see how it could be.
I mean, you could literally just give the parks to some of the biggest environmental organizations, like voluntary
Exactly.
associations, and it'd be
But it's just-
perfectly fine.
Yeah, which fared better, the privately owned cow or the buffalo on public land? Like,
Yeah, and right
Yeah,
now over in the
exactly.
Midwest, like North Midwest, around Wyoming, South Dakota, shit like that, there is a private nature preserve project going on right now. I think it's called the American Prairie Reserve Project, and they actually do some really interesting work. They own so much land, and they're preserving it and they're keeping it there.
I think there was also like some billionaire who wanted to buy a pretty large portion of the Amazon forest, I think it was, in order to preserve it.
There was a family down in the Amazon. I know that, or maybe it wasn't the Amazon. It was somewhere down there where they had bought some land that had been devastated by I don't remember what was devastated. But I think it was just deforestation, and they bought it and built a house
Wildfires?
there. And over decades, they had replanted every single tree that was there.
That's insane.
And it's actually more. It has more flora. Is that it? Flora? Is that the word?
Yeah.
There than there was even before the deforestation happened.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. If I can find the
Nice.
article, I'll link it. But
Right. And we kind of got a little bit off topic, but the whole point of like saying things like this, discussing these various strategies, is just to tell people how this could work
Yeah.
in the absence of government control. Like
Usually
it's
I
just
just-
answering common objections, right?
yeah, and
it's
like
good. It's
monopoly.
good to know these things so that you can tell people and communicate the ideas better.
Yeah, and like monopoly and antitrust, that's one. But so just mention the realities of that, or like the actual truths about the prices falling. And James J. Hill was the name of the railroad executive I was talking about earlier. You know what he did? He had no subsidies, and he still performed very well. So
Yeah. I mean, like
being
arguing,
well read, that is one key aspect.
Yeah,
arguing
Gotta
in
recommend
favor
books.
of like anarcho-capitalism is mostly just fighting strawmans and. Yeah, mainly just fighting strawmen.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
it's an easy ideology to strawman. You could seriously make
Exactly.
like 100 in 1 minute.
yeah. Sadly, it is very easy to straw man, but hey, we make it work somehow.
Hell yeah.
usually the strategy I tend to go with is not even because usually if people are there, they already understand the basic principles and
Mhm.
how we say things are going to work, but they don't like understand. How can I phrase this? Like they understand what we think how things would work, but they don't understand how everyone else could make it work like that. Because it's pretty obvious that not everyone's going to agree 100% with what we're going with.
Yeah, and that's
But-
like, and that's so great about anarcho-capitalism is that it's not necessary that you have to force anarcho-capitalism on the whole world. It's not necessary, and that's I think like the huge difference to like communism and anarcho-communism.
Yeah, but like usually I just try to go with the whole self-interest idea. Like it's almost like I almost argue in favor of egoism rather than anarcho-capitalism because the self-interest thing is a shared characteristic. That I usually just explain how people react to self-interest more than anything else at all. and usually they can grasp that a lot better. And then once they understand that, that's when I go and explain all the other stuff. So like if a company's doing bad, doing some malicious things behind everyone's backs, it's like someone could like be a private whistleblower and like call them out, and people are like, hey, that's not cool. Just like with the hand grenade thing, it's like, let's not do that, and then go and burn the company down or something. I don't know. Same road laws. That's another good one. Since we talked about roads and private roads and stuff, there's going to be road laws, even if they're not like set. They're going to be understood because it's in people's self-interest to not die.
Yeah, and I mean, if you want to use a road, I don't know. Some people think like maybe there's some weird that in a libertarian utopia there would be some weird crackhead. I don't know, just combining some wheels with like a rocket or something, and then just use it on a highway. But that's not
people
going
do
to
that
burn.
already. People do that already.
But it's not gonna happen because no private investor who owns a street is interested in having it destroyed and putting its customers in like extreme danger. Because if your customers die because some retards are driving on your streets, then people will obviously not drive on your streets anymore. So
Yeah,
nobody's
that's
interested in that. And I mean, there's a lot of you can argue quite well in favor of capitalism through the point of egoism, I think.
Yeah, another thing is like, I guess that's just carrying the road conversation, because I guess that's just the easiest thing to kind of explain everything else. This is more about roads specifically than anything else. So you said customers, about people driving on their roads. Another way to talk is not even consider them customers, just people on the road, because the
Yeah.
likelihood of people using roads as a direct way to make money is, I mean, it's possible, but I think it would be more economical just to use it as free advertising.
Yeah,
Like
or
Domino's now, like, and the potholes that they cover,
Yeah.
they stick their logo on it and say, "Yeah, we did it." They did that
Uh,
already. Like, that's just
yeah.
perfect advertising. And then guess what? Their sales have gone up
But
tremendously.
there's another way to make roads without any government involvement. Literally, like a community could get together, pull a fund, because right now the government, you know what it does? It just pays contractors to build the roads. The government doesn't build the roads, it bids for contractors, and then the contractors build the roads. So why can't a private community say, like, you know, a couple houses here and there, they all contribute to build a road for their street, or like maintain the road, stuff like that. It's kind of like how people maintain the driveways. So be kind of like a community road. And then for longer roads, that could be like shipping companies that mainly do it, or like some bigger corporations that kind of need the longer roads. But even then, it's still more efficient to use trains. So eventually they'll end up building railways instead to transport their goods and stuff, because trucks are only good for like intercity to transport anyways.
Another thing is, hold on, I was just about to say it, lost it. Hold on. Oh yeah, another thing is like people think it's like, well, roads are so expensive to make, so in pulling a community fund together is not possible or not that easy. It's the same. They're so expensive for the same reason that education is, and that homes were in 2008 and kind of still are, because if the government guarantees the money, they can charge whatever they want. It's the same thing with the healthcare industry. If you have Medicare and Medicaid guaranteeing these insurance companies money, well, then they can charge whatever they want. But since they have to keep it
University
fair,
tuition as well.
yeah, exactly. And it's the same thing. Like, but if there's a laws against them charging different people its different amounts, then they have to charge all people the same amount they would charge government institutions.
Remembered
So, of
one
course, you
way.
have
Remembered one way that I approach the road question, and again, it's through absurdo ad reductum.
Yeah.
I tell them, so you're telling me that the market can produce a small handheld device that can let you communicate with anyone in any part of the world at any moment within seconds, and has more information than the Library of Alexandria and any other library in history ever combined, but they can't figure out how to put asphalt on the ground.
Yeah, I think that like there's so many good examples how you can build roads on, or you can have roads in a libertarian society. I think there was also I saw something. We're not Amish people, but it was like a
We're not
similar community. I'm not too familiar with it, but obviously not Amish since they don't really use cars. But but it was like also like a really isolated Christian traditionalist community, and they had a highway they used a lot nearby, and basically the highway went to shit because the government wasn't taking care of the highway. So what they basically did, they were not allowed to do anything with the highway, so they just built their own highway. And actually made it open to the public as well, because they needed obviously they needed food supply in their city or in their village. They it just like common sense. A road is just profitable and better for pretty much every individual. It's I think like in a private right society, roads would probably be owned either by communities, by private investors, and probably some by like multiple private investors in order to make advertisement and stuff like that.
Yeah, it'd also be stuff like the way the railroad industry was done back in the 1800s. Like, it's just gonna be these big tycoon guys like, hey, let's go build some roads. Let's go do it. It's just gonna be like that. I mean, sure, they charge them to use railways, but like, how much does that cost to use a railroad? Like,
Not
nothing.
a lot, and with the amount of cargo that's going to move over it, it's going to be made up to them. They can charge low rates and still make money.
Yeah, it's gonna
They're
be
probably
no
not
margin
even
high
going to
volume.
tax people. They're probably only going to tax like transport trucks and stuff.
It's not even gonna be a
because, again,
tax.
it's more
Like,
profitable.
Call it taxes.
Yeah, it's not even a tax.
It's a dirty
it's like
word.
pay to
Yeah,
use.
only a
Dirty
communist
word.
would say that's a tax. Come on, Peter.
yeah,
Does that make three
even
of us
more-
now?
By the end of the episode, everyone's going to be.
I will never be pinko commie scum. Better
Okay,
dead
Jay,
than red.
We all know you're a pinko.
Cool story. Please turn and face the wall.
Another thing is that I think people don't look past the United States. If they're in the United States specifically, they don't see the bigger picture of the whole
Oh,
world, because there's a lot of countries that have a lot of their road infrastructure privatized. Like South Korea has some crazy, like 95% of their roads are privately owned. I saw that the other day.
Doesn't Finland too?
Sweden and I think Finland as well also have high rates of private road ownership, and they're
That's
doing
like
fine.
60%.
Well,
Yeah, it's some crazy.
you know
high
what's an
number.
interesting thing about that also? Is that that's such a good argument on so many levels, because also, how the fuck by their logic, how the hell do we have all this international shipping and all that if the government's not involved, aside from tariffs?
How are ships supposed to move without government?
Yeah, how do ships move without the roads, guys? Come on.
Other ships move without the roads.
Can we make Insurrection Inc. merch that says
How does
how do ships move without the roads?
Oh man.
We have to write that down.
Oh yeah, that's going into promo art. I'm gonna make that later.
I just want to see the day where the government doesn't exist, so of course there's no U.S. Navy protecting shipping lanes, and then there's giant cargo ships with unbelievably large cannons on top of them, just like pirate ships back in the day.
Oh my god.
Awesome.
That'd be so
would
cool.
be.
I'd be a sailor for the rest of my life.
Adam Smith actually talked about that in The Wealth of
Really?
Nations. He
Yeah,
said
no,
he said the
it's-
merchant class should have to protect its own interests over the seas instead of being subsidized by state navies.
That would be such a cool job, though. Imagine being like the private security that goes on ships and fights off pirates.
That's already the
I know
case.
that's ridiculous,
like,
but that's such a cool job.
probably-
Imagine being that.
I think like everyone has seen the video
Yeah.
of private security shooting at the Somali pirates
Yeah.
on the cargo ships. I think everyone has seen that.
One of the
And-
funniest pictures I've ever seen is this: how the Somali pirates get around, and it's like this little like rowboat mini
Yeah.
canoe thing, and they just kind of go up to the
Yeah.
side and like throw some hair that they have lying around, and they tie together and climb up the side. It's so
And they
funny.
somehow still capture ships.
Yeah, like I'm the captain now. The whole thing, you know, it's crazy.
I mean, you can sum up the whole topic basically that I don't know why, but a lot of statists think that people are not gonna make actions based on the problems. Like if you don't have a road to your village and you need a road, you will build one.
Yeah.
If you are getting attacked by Somali pirates all the time, you will hire some people with guns to defend yourself.
Attacked by
I mean, it's
Somali
just common
pirates all the time.
If you have a pandemic going around, people are going to be more calm about what's going on without the media being backed.
And they're
by
going
the
to
government screaming
self-quarantine
down
like
their
they've been
throats about
You
doing.
can't have a pandemic if the government isn't there to create the bioweapon.
it. Exactly what it is.
Oh man. Okay, but
Plus,
guys, so we're running up. We're running up on an hour here, so I think we should start wrapping up. So you finish your thought, Andrew, and then we'll start wrapping up.
I was gonna, back to the pandemic thing. It's like just even if they don't create the bioweapons, which they
Which
would.
they do.
Which without a government they wouldn't, because they wouldn't exist. Just the free market, as we've seen now with the decrease in regulations upon the healthcare industry, we're doing better and better than we ever have been before. It's so without any regulation at all, it'd be even better. So we wouldn't even have pandemics in the first place. Maybe minor epidemics, but only because they put fluoride in the water.
Right. People just lack faith in decentralized responses.
Decentralized fluoride water.
Okay, so I think what we learned here today is that just there's no one way to approach something, and you need to know your friends. You need to know who you're talking to. But the best way you can do it is logic, examples, and just try to attack their argument from the root of it, right? Do you guys agree?
Yeah, and the other important thing is you have to know the ideology yourself.
Yeah.
You have to be well-versed and well-educated yourself in order to spread it to others.
Yeah, that is a very good point.
And be inquisitive. Don't try to shove it down the throat and act like you know more than they do. Try to let them
Don't
realize.
act like a communist. Because communists act like they're better than everyone else.
Let them realize it on their own.
Yeah, even if you don't convince them right then, just they're gonna think about it, because it's such a revolutionary idea. They're gonna think about it.
The problem is that a lot of communists think they have the moral high ground because they're against exploitation and stuff like that. So that's you should obviously avoid that. If you tell a statist that he is in favor of coercion, you're not going to win an argument against him, because you're just going to insult him, basically.
That's borderline and ad hoc. So you just gotta be
I think the best thing you can do is just try to plant the seeds in somebody's head and help it grow from there.
Their everyday life will prove our side more and more.
Yeah.
Just how inadequate the state is, and how better the just basic human action on an individual level is much better.
So,
right.
Read
The
human
evidence
action.
is on our side ultimately.
Yeah, during the quarantine, read human action.
Yeah.
That's a good
Yes,
time.
read
Oh
human
my
action.
God.
Actually, I'm reading it right now again.
All right, well, Porter, you want to get the ship on the road?
Yeah, thanks for listening. I think we had a good discussion. I hope some people learned some stuff from this. I hope people learn some actionable things from this specifically. Go out and talk to your friends.
Yes.
And spread liberty.
Yeah, don't just share Boogaloo memes.
Again, thanks for listening.
Yes, please don't share Boogaloo memes. They're kind of cringe after some time.
Yeah. But other memes are good. But yeah, thanks for listening again, and we'll see you next time. Bye.